Business Financial Network.
Good day. This is Roger signing in for the BFN, the Business Financial Network. And welcome to our special podcast series, Know Your CEO, where we get exclusive insights from the CEO of one of the many companies our investment audience has been following as we continue to assist our viewers in the discovery of unexplored, brand new asset classes and emerging issuers in the world's market. And it's my pleasure to introduce and welcome Mark Scott, the CEO of Gander Gold. How are you doing today, Mark?
Great, Roger. Great to be with you.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. At BFN, we believe that companies don't succeed, people do. So please tell us a bit about yourself.
Sure. Way back to the beginning, I'm a dyed-in-the-wool maritimer, as the saying goes. Born and raised in Bathurst, New Brunswick, in a mining household in a mining town, and worked underground and caught the mining bug as a summer student while I was going to university. Worked as a production miner and support miner, and then got into the industry, which was really the only one I seriously considered working in as an adult, and have been working in it for my entire adult life. Had the great opportunity to work for Inco, which of course doesn't exist anymore, but worked for Inco in both Sudbury and Thompson for quite a few years, and worked my way up the operations ladder there to the point where my last role with then Vale was Vice President of Vale Canada and head of the Manitoba operations, which at the time included 3 underground mines, a surface quarry, mill, smelter, and refinery, fully integrated from exploration to reclamation mining operations. So I've had the chance to work everywhere from very entry-level positions doing work that you wouldn't even want to hear the description of, to up in the C-suite in the corner office, and it's been a long and winding road, but certainly an entertaining and an educational and fun and challenging and rewarding one.
Wow. Unbelievable. Thank you very much for that, man. And you know what? It's really, really important that people understand that, it takes an interesting type of person to do those normal type of jobs and then, work their way all the way to that C-suite level. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. Let's get right into this. Why is it that Gander Gold has been one of the last companies to start drilling in Newfoundland since acquiring ground in early 2021, just ahead of the gold rush that kicked off that year?
Well, I'm not 100% sure I accept the premise of the question that we're one of the last. Gander Gold came into existence in 2021 as then a private subsidiary of our parent company, Sassy Gold, and then listed and started trading on its own under the ticker symbol GAND on the CSE in March of 2022. So we're only just over a year as a public company. And here we are drilling the first of our 8 very prospective properties in Newfoundland. If it has taken a while to get to this point, the reasons are that we have a large property package, the largest single company claim position on the island of Newfoundland, which makes up some 2,259 square kilometers of ground. And it required the performance of a whole lot of homework for us to get to the point where we were identifying first drill targets, which we are exploring now with rotary air blast, or RAB, drilling on a number of those projects for the first time this year. So it's taken us a while to get here because we were doing all of the homework that's required to run a large regional soil sampling program, conduct airborne geophysical surveys over all of that ground, and get to the point where we're able to identify those drill targets. So here we are. We didn't have the benefit of the newfound golds of the world who spent 5 or 6 years doing the exact same program, the exact same homework as a private company, and then only listed when they had diamond drilling that they were starting to do. We started trading a little earlier in the process, and we have yet to have that big run up in the stock price that will come with the discoveries we feel are imminent on the island of Newfoundland.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you very much for that. Okay. And Newfound Gold has just recently reported some spectacular new drill results from its Queensway project, specifically 27 meters grading 105 grams per ton of gold in the new Iceberg zone northeast of the original high-grade Keats zone discovery. What is the significance of this new discovery, not only for NFG, but for the broader Gander Gold Belt and potentially your Gander North project?
Well, that was quite a mouthful, Roger. Are you okay after having said all that?
Yes, I'm great.
You're good? Okay, good. So the Iceberg results from Newfound Gold are really spectacular. I mean, those numbers you do not see very often around the world. And we are very lucky to have them on a structure coming off of the original Keats zone, coming off of the Appleton Fault.
Yeah.
And what it is evidence of is that our regional hypothesis as to what's going on in Newfoundland is starting to play itself out. These are not only the highest grade drill results that Newfound Gold has put out yet over the last 3 years, they're also the furthest afield from the original Keats discovery. And if you look at a map, if you look at a LiDAR image of the island, you can see these Iceberg drill results are on a structure, on a crack that runs from Newfound's Queensway project through the Iceberg zone, and then is one of the northeast trending lines that we identified across our Gander North property.
Wow.
A couple of years ago when Sean Ryan and I were identifying this ground that we wanted to stake and make part of this big, this big net that we wanted to cast across the region to increase our likelihood of discovery on that ground. And so we believe it's evidence that our regional hypothesis that there's much more to the story in Newfoundland than
Agreed.
Keats zone or the Appleton Fault and the JBP line. Those are great areas, and there's much more to the story. And so that's why we literally have the Queensway project in those areas north of Gander Lake, surrounded with, actually north and south, surrounded by the Mount Peyton and Gander North projects, among others.
Wow. Yeah. You know, when I look at the map, it looks like you guys have totally surrounded NFG's claims. So if they're doing what they're doing, then, in my opinion, I think it's just a matter of time. The drill got to do the talking. Thank you very much for that. So we know that gold has been of great interest recently to investors. How does Gander Gold going to deal with the current price fluctuations?
Well, I think gold is a, it's a few things. It's different things to different people. It's a store of value. It's a hedge against inflation. It's a safe haven in turbulent times. And, when I look at the state of things around the world now, you have to say we're in a state of turmoil globally that I don't think we've seen probably since the end of the Second World War, between, growing tension in Asia, with Taiwan and some of the near collisions during recent naval exercises. Obviously, the ongoing Russian invasion of Ukraine in Eastern Europe, and the blowing of the dam, which is just an environmental disaster and may have implications for the availability of cooling water for Europe's largest nuclear power plant.
Wow.
And will starve one of Europe's, if not Europe's largest breadbasket of water for irrigation. Add to that the BRIC countries and their de-dollarization movement. And not that Canada's that big a deal on the global stage anymore, but 8 years of absolutely inept mismanagement of our government and central bank. And you have to say at the moment, gold is a pretty good bet given that level of turmoil. I mean, it unfortunately means we're all in quite a bit of hot water in a sort of geopolitical and security sense. But if your focus is just on gold, then that's a good thing. The fluctuations lately, I mean, you have to put it in context. Gold is trading at an historically high price over the last
that's correct.
years. So, bouncing around from $1,850 to $2,050 an ounce,
Yeah.
that $200 swing, $100 each way in a week can cause a lot of emotional reaction. But I'll certainly take that over, bouncing between $300 and $500 an ounce.
Agreed.
And we think there's a new floor in the price, and that's reflected in some of the recent sort of bounce backs that the price has made. So, gold is in a great spot. We think it's got a good long-term road ahead of it. And regardless of the price, in the end, the job of exploration and mining companies is to find the highest grade, most economic, highest margin deposits we can. And that is your guard against low swings in the price. That grade rules, right? And so that's why we're in Newfoundland looking for these high grade deposits rather than somewhere else where you might be digging up a whole lot of sand but not having the same kind of grades.
Awesome. Okay, and Gander Gold has about 8 projects in total. Some investors would say that's way too many. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it may turn out to be a couple too many. The idea was to cast as wide a net as we could in Newfoundland in the very early days of what's developed into this Newfoundland gold rush, to make sure that, as we said before, we had, for example, the Keats Zone and the Queensway projects literally surrounded with the Gander North, Carmenville, Mount Peyton, and BLT projects.
Yep.
We have a few other pieces of ground that are a little further afield. The Cape Ray 2 project that we have is immediately adjacent to Matador Mining's 840,000 ounce deposit, which is still growing, and we see some real potential in our piece of ground that's next to them. And then we have a couple of smaller projects down south that are close to CanStar's Golden Bay project. I think you'll see some rationalization of our ground as we move forward and identify the priority pieces of it. But in the beginning, the idea was to have a large piece of ground to up the likelihood of discovery. And what's happened is that big piece of ground has exceeded our expectations, because now we have 5 of those 8 projects at least that are really distinguishing themselves in terms of significant gold in soil anomalies that are overlying geophysical structures we've identified, and very definitely warrant follow-up exploration work, which is what we're doing now with the RAB drill, and we'll continue to do as we do that work to develop diamond drill targets down the road on multiple projects.
Okay, unbelievable. Well, I got one more question for you before I let you go. Just a handful of investors nearly own 70% of your stock. How did that happen?
Well, Gander Gold came into being as a spinout from Sassy Gold, and so what Sassy decided to do was, instead of doing the usual one and done, rip all the shares out to its own shareholders, it decided to keep a controlling interest in Gander for the purpose of realizing that value for Sassy shareholders down the road and having a non-dilutive source of financing for Sassy as things develop in Newfoundland. And so what that means for Gander is that between Sassy's nearly 40% ownership of Gander, Eric Sprott's roughly 10% ownership of Gander, and then the handful of sort of founding shareholders and larger Sassy shareholders who received their spin-out shares that we did distribute to Sassy shareholders in Gander, means that about 70% of Gander's share count is held with just a handful of investors. And so the public float, regardless of the total issued and outstanding share count, the public float in Gander is quite limited, which means that as these discoveries develop on all those very prospective projects that we have in Newfoundland, the run up in the price should be significant because of that very limited float, that very limited public, number of shares that's available for free trading. So we think both Gander and the former mothership Sassy are both positioned extremely well as a result of that strategic decision that was made 2 years ago to turn Gander into a spinout.
Wow. Wow. Thank you very much for that analysis. I really tremendously appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time to share with us and our investment community your company's current status. And we look forward to hearing from you in the future with more updates. And as always, all the information being shared here is for entertainment and educational purposes. We here at BFN are not licensed financial advisors, and no past performance guarantees future gains or losses. To keep on winning, though, you got to keep on watching. We appreciate your time here at BFN, and we encourage you to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the bell to stay notified. Thanks a lot, Mark.
My pleasure, Raj.